मध्ये अमेरिका कल्याण रागम हलो त्यागराज कृति मानव लीला
Ah welcome with flower bouquet. एक छोटा सा मेमेंटो हमारी तरफ से।
Here on this stage because the kind of musical evening that was going on when I entered here, I was not able to judge whether the artists sitting here were great or the audience there, because the kind of interaction that was happening was indeed remarkable. And I thought, if for paucity of time, I thought I would come in and give my lecture and go back. But in fact, if given a chance, I would like to be a part of this entire group because it's such a, it looks like such a learned group and all artists are here. So I'm delighted and to be here on this stage today. I especially thank the organizers of this evening for having invited me here, especially Mrs. Shailaja. Though I've been out of bounds for her for a week's time on my own work, today I decided that I would come and then interact with you all. In fact, what I would like to do is not just lecture about what the form is about. I'm a Kuchipudi artist, learning Kuchipudi, been performing Kuchipudi for more than almost 40 years now. My passion towards Kuchipudi continued to be there, though from performer to an academician, because I've diversified into knowing what Kuchipudi is all about. My thesis is on Kuchipudi. And for the past 20 years I have been in the university. So today I would not take it as a class, but try to give you some glimpses of what Kuchipudi is all about. We are indeed very, very proud that we all belong to Kuchipudi, as any artist feels proud that they belong to certain gharana or certain guru as such. Andhra Pradesh is very unique for its varied traditions as such. You have, at one hand, you have several classical traditions. You have, on the other hand, the folk traditions, the tribal traditions and all. The amalgam of all these looks to be what Kuchipudi is all about, because it reaches the audience at the folk forms reach the audience. And it is as classical because of the kind of scientific, theoretical knowledge that is embedded in it, the kind of science that is there in the technique and performance of it. So I would say that while placing Kuchipudi, not in the present day context, but when you look at the origins of Kuchipudi, it's a traditional theatre form. You can safely say that it is a traditional theatre form, as any other forms are all about. Like Kathakars. Kathak is from the Kathaka tradition. The Kathakali tradition is there. And also the certain other traditions which have prompted the growth of classical Indian dance forms in the post-independent India. In fact, Gotipuva tradition has been playing a very pivotal role in the growth of what Odissi is today. They were all Kelu Babu. Guru Kelu Babu was the person who has been a Gotipuva performer, but slowly developed a tradition of Odissi. In the same way, Kuchipudi has been. Kuchipudi has been going through several changes and variations as any other Indian classical dance form. Because most of the forms, as we have learned probably 40 years back, is not what it is today. It has been changing. Like any other dance form, it has been also changing over a period of time. And what we see today is, of course, far off from what it was originally. So I would just go into, to be very safe, I would say, we would divide this particular part of our session into two things. I would not take much time. First 10-15 minutes I would show you what Kuchipudi was before 1959 and after 1959. Okay? When we are talking about 1959, what is the importance of 1959? 1959 is one year in which Kuchipudi got the classical status as per one of the very important conventions or conferences that was organized on February 28th and March 1st of 1959. This becomes a kind of a benchmark for us, saying that at the national level, Kuchipudi started playing a very important role and also being proud that it has been recognized or reconsidered or revoked as the classical dance form as such. So pre that year and post that year is what I would like to look at. Before going into the details of what it was, like every classical form or every traditional form for that matter has a great history behind it. All history is great for us. Whatever has जो बीत गया वो बहुत glorious है. So from that glorious history of 500 years, what has happened? Who were the custodians of the form? So I would like to divide into look at who were the ones who were performing, who were the ones who were performing before 1959 Kuchipudi, for whom they were performing, who were the audience for whom they were performing, and what were they performing. So these are the three aspects that I would look at, and from there how these three aspects of kaun, kaha, kaise decides the form, the presentation of the form. For instance, today we had that guitar, electric guitar and the violin, and the way they were playing is not like a concert sabha music. It was an admixture of the classical and was also catering to the audience there. There was an interaction that has been brought into which you don't find in the sabha presentation. Sangam.
Nindo uluvayunnade nikila kirtigannade Nindo uluvayunnade nikila kirtigannade Dandita ripu daitueda navenu Dandita ripu daitueda Dakhan DINAKAR
See how grand it is. Just hearing to it itself is such grandeur is what the main character enters with. So if I continue with this, it will go for another 3 hours because I can't stop hearing to it either. But this is how the tradition used to be. This is what the tradition of Kuchipudi is all about. It has that grandeur of music, grandeur of enactment, grandeur of dialogue, and everything amalgamated together was Kuchipudi is all about, and the action of Kuchipudi used to be. And what happened over a period of time, changes need occur, do occur in any dance form. So that's what has happened with Kuchipudi also. When it has happened, what did it lead to? How did the technique change? How did the abhinaya change? Is what is the next part of my presentation is about. After 1959, of course, 1930s itself, several dancers who were learning other dance forms like Bharatanatyam were coming and learning Kuchipudi, some items of Kuchipudi, and presenting it as a part of the presentation. Besides the dancers coming and learning, the gurus themselves, the Kuchipudi traditional gurus themselves felt that their form should not be curtailed because if it is curtailed, it would not spread. So they thought about it, and they all felt that they should now open out the form for others to come and learn it, and should not never curtail it from the women also, because when women learn, it goes to the next generations. That's what they felt. So one of the very, very leading gurus who had this revolution, who has almost revolutionized this particular idea of opening out everything and spreading it out for women, and also developing in such a way that women also learn this form and are in a position to present it as a solo performance, is what being thought about by Vedantam Lakshminarayana Shastri. He was one person who has in fact opened out the entire doors of Kuchipudi, revolutionized Kuchipudi in one way or the other, in the way that from the tradition Yakshagana, where you have this grandeur of characters coming in and the story being enacted and all that, you have this beautiful lilt of Kuchipudi solo dance tradition coming out of that. This solos used to be earlier practiced as a part of the Yakshagana, where there is a context of this, the Rambhadulu. I mean, in the Pravesha Dharma, we are talking about the Rambha Urvasi coming and entertaining Hiranyakashipa. There you would have a solo item. And in the context also, without the context also, they started doing the solo performances. But these solo performances now have become the A's, the markers of Kuchipudi in the post-1959. So solo becomes a very important genre or the stream in Kuchipudi itself. So how did this happen, and when this particular entry of women has happened, what has happened to the form? The roughness, the rough edges have been slowly chiseled into the grace of Kuchipudi. So you see the grace that you see in Odissi, in the upper region of Andhra Pradesh, and down to Andhra in Tamil Nadu, you have the clean lines of Bharatanatyam. So Kuchipudi falls somewhere in between the technique or the Nritta part of it. That the Nritta part of Kuchipudi, when you see, it is somewhere in between Odissi and Bharatanatyam. It has those clean lines, but at the same time it has the flow of Odissi. So I would like to show you a small steps of Kuchipudi, because it's a basic steps that lead to the kind of, the foundations are the ones which show the strength of the building. In the same way, I will just show the basics of Kuchipudi, 2-3 basics, which show the flow of movement in itself. The kind of energy flow that you see in the basics of Kuchipudi in the post-1950s or 59 as such. And then we will go to showing small jatis, where this flow of movement is much more complete. So I would request Katyayani, who is a research scholar working from PhD in Central University under me, she is the one who has been kind enough to accept me asking her come and perform today, do the lecture demonstration. And in fact, I am the one who has got into her slot, because she was also her subject is also Kuchipudi, but she's mainly working at Kuchipudi from 40s to 60s, 30s to 60s. And in fact, she was also asked to talk about her thesis and her work, but today probably I will digress into her time and also ask her to demonstrate for us. Katyayani will now show 2 small bits of the basics and then do a jati, that is the Nritta part of Kuchipudi, where I would explain the kind of kinetics that are involved in the movement of Kuchipudi.
Full light.
Several that we have. In fact, I just want to explain to you the kind of entry that we have. Normally, I don't think any of the dance forms has this entry because everybody feels that their form is very great. But my observation says that most of the entries either are that in Aramandi you come in and enter like this, or come and stand and start with your right knee. It's like that. But this particular Kuchipudi has, we call it as, many say that Kuchipudi Nadaka is what is the mark of it. The Nadaka means the entry itself is the mark of Kuchipudi, where you have that dipping kind of a entry that you have. When you're walking, you're not just walking, but even when you're coming to the front or walking, there is a dip and a lilt of the body. This is normally people call it as a bobbing up movement. But bobbing up is normally sitting and standing. Probably when the men were doing it, they were doing it in a very, because the energy levels are much more higher, that you do it with such strength that it's really very, very strong. But when a woman is doing, what has happened, the kind of lilt that is brought into Kuchipudi is also definitely because of the entry of women into it, and the grace has been added to the entire movement when they are doing it. So when she is doing one of the movement like that, the chest, then is the kind of this in fact we call in the common parlance, like in Chau you have several names given to different forms, or in Kathak you have different names given to different basic steps. In the same way we call this as Challakavam Adu. In Telugu, Challakavam is the kind of the churning movement that we do when you are making buttermilk and taking out butter from the curd as such. This is where basically they are agriculturalists. They have agriculture lands because of the villages the lands have been given. They have the preoccupation of agriculture in them. So probably some of the movements that they do in the daily course become a part and parcel of the tradition. So when they're doing this is called the Challakavam. You normally churn like this. So the churning became a part and parcel of it. They added the movement and it becomes a kind of a lilting movement which is called the Challakavam Adu. Though we don't use much of this Challakavam Adu, this is one of those markers. I really love this step because the kind of flow of energy that goes into it. Like it is beautiful sway of body and the hands that come in. And it is not just one way. The other way also it is done, where you do it with the left hand as such. So this way these are the markers where there is a kind of dipping movement, the grace and the energy flows which are very horizontal in nature. And then you also have, when you're doing this, the third step that I have specifically asked her to demonstrate, this way. The swaying is up and down, and also the kind of sways of movement is this way. But here it is not going back. Here it is more horizontal, where the kind of lift cage is being used to bring in the sway in the movement as such. So I'll just show you. The sway here is when she's doing this particular step. Dynamics that work in each of these movements. So when when you see this particular sway of movement, it's much more very graceful, and that is a marker of Kuchipudi, where any movement is done with some kind of a energy flow as such. And also this is not just throwing of energy and jumping, it's not that. There is a kind of internal energy that flows through the movement, and this is what is the marker of Kuchipudi, especially in the post-independent India. So with this, I would just show you one particular jati, we call it as a jati, where it is a sequence of steps put together with a kind of a finishing coming in. This is just to show the beauty of the nritta part, that is the pure dance part of Kuchipudi. It may not be communicating something, but it communicates something very beautiful. It is more aesthetic in nature as such. This is a particular jati which has been choreographed by Guru Venkateswara. He in fact is a legendary figure in the field of Kuchipudi. The kind of path in which he has taken Kuchipudi right from 1970s is remarkable. But for him, Kuchipudi would not have been in the state where it is today. So, with all reverence to Guru Venkateswara, today we would just show you one jati of Venkateswara. This is done as a precursor of the Darugu or Usha Pravesa Darugu, which was taken from basically the Yakshagana, Kuchipudi Vishapariniyam, Kuchipudi Yakshagana. This is the importance of this particular jati is that the song starts after 7 matras. Tadin, takitta, then it starts. So today it has been set to stop at the 7th matra, and then the song starts. So I will just recite the jati, and then Katyayani will do it. One of the Nupura Padikachari, which is a Bhaumi Chari. This is taken, normally it is called from here, you have to bring your foot to the front is what is that particular chari is all about. But Venkateswara has taken that as the base and choreographed this movement of taking it to the back, and then from there it is taken back to the other leg. So that's how, see, you have several bases from which a movement can emerge out, and that's how he has choreographed certain thousands of such jatis and choreographed several such movements which are not earlier known but never left the tradition as it is in Lurch. He took the tradition as the base, amalgamated with the kind of knowledge that we got in post-independent texts as such because of the translation of Natyashastra and all that. Because of his reading, he amalgamated the tradition with this kind of knowledge that he got and created several jatis. And today, there is no master who has done such creative work. He is a colossus in this particular area. So, this is his choreography. Then we would do a small bit of, this is what is Kuchipudi as a nritta is about. What about the Abhinaya part of it? Abhinaya, of course, it being a kind of drama, I was talking about the dramatic element is much in the tradition. The same dramatic element carried itself into the tradition of the solos also. When the solos, in solos, what happens is whenever there is a kind of an opportunity for us, we normally tend to get back to the story of it and enact the characters with the same solo artist taking different characters. So this kind of a dramatic action, which is a very important aspect of the Yakshaganas, became also an important aspect of the solo presentations in Kuchipudi. So you see most of the Kuchipudi's presentations, wherever there is a kind of an opportunity in the lyric to enact a particular story, it is taken and enacted. So that's how you see in many of the kritis that we do, there is an enactment of the story, the same solo dancer taking different characters. I would just show you the Dashavataram, one avatara being portrayed with different characters. This is actually a choreography of Sri Shastri. So I would request him to present a small bit from the Dashavatara that he has choreographed. This is the Narasimhavatara bit. This is done as a part of the Dikshitarvriti.